just said I'm so sorry I didn't set up an introduction for you before.
Matt.
I totally
Brad,
just
nice
missed
to meet
it.
you. Nice to meet you.
I'll also-
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Are you? Okay.
yeah, for Topeka, Lawrence, Manhattan,
Hello?
Hello?
Wichita, Kansas City, kind of.
Oh boy.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, this is Michelle. I am on my way. I'm sorry. If you want to go ahead and get started, I can do it on the phone until I get there.
Yeah, sounds good. Would somebody else like to chair the meeting in her absence until she gets here? As a courtesy to her, since she is traveling here.
Absolutely do that.
Matt, will you do that?
I got it.
Because everyone else is new. Do you mind?
Everyone's first time.
Is that all right, Michelle? Does that help you out?
I'm having trouble understanding you guys.
Okay. In which case, that would probably be helpful to her. All right. Matt, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So in Michelle's absence, gonna call this meeting to order. Starting off with introductions. My name is Matt Messina. I work in the planning office at KDOT.
I'm Jessica Mortinger. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager for the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Courtney Shipley, City Commissioner.
Brian Kramer, Baldwin City Council.
Jim Weaver from Planning Commission appointees.
I'm Ashley Myers, Transportation Planner with the MPO.
Brad Finkeldine, City Commissioner.
Do you want?
CC Riley, Transportation Attorney.
Brian Leo, transportation intern as well.
Right. And we have, looks like 3-4 new members, right? So, awesome. Thank you for being here. Moving on to item B, open the floor to public comment.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you all, is there any requirement, do you have a mode share goal? Or is that even y'all's domain?
We have in the long-range plan performance measures related to networks of the different modes, so like ASAP pedestrian networks or bikeway networks. And we have goals about shifting mode share from single occupant vehicles. That's the work we do in much of the multimodal planning that we're doing. But most all of that measure is set through any of our planning documents.
Do you have a multimodal share goal?
Yes, much of the work we have in the measures we have is working towards reduction of vehicle miles traveled in single occupant vehicles.
All right.
I think Rob might be
that-
on there now.
Hey, this is Rob. I just wanted to let you know I'm on.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. So I guess that closes it for public comments. Moving on to item C, to approve last month's meeting minutes, which I guess you weren't really here for anyway, right?
Just you.
So yeah,
I'll move to approve the minutes.
okay. Got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Who else was here? Rob, were you here last month?
Second.
There it
Okay.
is. All right, motion to approve. All those in favor of approving November 21st meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Item D, election of chair and vice chair for calendar year 2020. This is another action item, so what's the process for going through nominations or recommendations or whatever?
Absolutely. So we would, generally, the role of chair and vice chair is formal for processes of the meeting, just running the meeting, and the vice chair does that in absence of the chair. We meet about 8 times a year, and it's just going through the process of organizing the agenda that staff has prepared, so it's not too challenging of a chairmanship or womanship. And typically, we rotate every year-ish, basically depending kind of on new members and what those expectations are. So you can just open the floor to nominations and see kind of who's interested in it.
Okay.
Please don't let just being new limit you from serving in this role. It's really not that challenging.
Yeah, so,
Michelle,
It's not challenging.
so yeah,
Except getting there on time is challenging.
we'll open the floor to nominations, which can be self-nominations.
correct.
Or nominating anybody that's to your left. However you want to go about it.
So Michelle's the current chair?
Correct.
Who was the chair before that?
Corey Davis, I think, from KDOT.
He was that chair for a while.
Yeah, he was chair for quite a few years before that.
That actually is like a consistent thing.
Yeah.
KDOT being at least vice chair, because, you know, with it being a staff thing, we'll be here year after year. So there's a little bit of transfer of knowledge. So, I mean, I guess I gladly would recommend myself for at least vice chair or chair.
I mean, I'm willing to do it again if nobody else wants to, or,
Well, that works for me, and I'll put myself up for vice chair,
Sounds great.
if that's doable.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Yeah,
Okay.
make that a form, can you just make that a formal appoint?
I would like
Nomination and
to
appointment.
nominate Michelle for a second year, and myself at the same time for first year vice chair.
I'll second.
second,
All
Take
right.
your pick.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 And those opposed,
Aye.
well, I believe that was just delayed.
Doesn't like you.
Yeah. Okay, so that carries, so, moving on to number 2. Approve the federal fiscal year 19 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 5. Is that something we'll be discussing briefly on the board?
Yes. All right. So the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, is one of the 4 documents that we are required to do federally. And we typically do it in a 2-year cycle. And so this one was last done, and actually this document was written in October of 2018 for the fiscal year 2019, which starts in October. And every quarter or so, we do amendments. And so this is amendment number 5 to the document. And this document requires a 15-day public comment period. And so we did that, January 9th to January 24th. And we received one comment asking about pedestrian safety at Kentucky and 6th Street. This didn't actually pertain to any of the projects in this TIP amendment. And so we talked, or pointed the person to talk to the Municipal Services and Operations Department about that specifically, and thank them for their comment. And here's the TIP amendment itself. There were 3 surfacing projects, and also the other thing about the TIP is any project that has federal funding needs to be in this document. And so we need to add projects in if they are going to have federal or state funding, and then also any projects that are regionally significant need to be in the document. And so that's part of the reason why we added some new projects here. There's 2 new surfacing projects from KDOT, There's a change to the West Leg surfacing project to add more money to the K-10 project. And then there were also some projects that needed to be added back into the TIP because we thought they were going to be done in time, and so we had taken them out of the TIP when we had updated the TIP, and then they did not get completed. So we needed to bring them back in so they could be finished. The last project there is the Wakarusa Drive extension, and that project is a Douglas County project right now. It does not have any KDOT funding associated with it, and so Douglas County is continuing to get a better idea of when that project could potentially happen and how much funding it would require. So that's why it's been updated. So those are the projects that are in this TIP amendment, and we've received that one public comment. It was recommended for approval by TAC at their meeting a few weeks ago. Any questions about the TIP amendment or the TIP in general?
No questions? All right. I guess we're just looking for a motion to approve TIP number 5, TIP amendment number 5.
I move to approve.
Second?
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, motion carries. Next up is an update on safe routes to school planning for Lawrence.
We have been very busy on safe routes to school planning work, most recently with our visit to the 14 elementary schools and 4 middle schools in the USD 497 school district. After our open house, which we found to be an unsuccessful strategy to get engagement, we contacted all the principals at every school asking if we should visit their PTA, PTO, or site council. And based on that recommendation from the principal, we've been doing with our Safe Routes to School planning team, visits to all of the schools to talk to their organizations, to solicit feedback via our survey and provide paper packets. We've had varying degrees of responses from some different schools, and we're learning a lot about what some strategies are that we've had some more successful engagement at some schools over others. But we are finalizing, we've had some varying deadlines based on our site visits, and we're expecting to finalize all of the public engagement periods by the 25th of February. And so after that, we'll be reviewing all of that with our planning team and making final revisions to some of the stuff we've drafted to plan to go back through a process to take it to TAC, Multimodal Transportation Commission, and then MPO Policy Board and City Commission. And then eventually school board also as part of that approval timeline. We're hoping to have that complete by the end of the school year, at least the plan document and the public comment period, and then we'll work through the approvals. We are going to identify some work that we were hoping to get done in the planning process that is going to need to be some of our first implementation steps. So there will be continued work that we engage in with all of our planning partners, the City of Lawrence, the school district, the health department, throughout the year to continue working on implementation of safe routes to school. We are also doing similar work in Eudora and Baldwin City, and we have finalized the public input and are working on compiling draft plans to present back with the districts and the governments, local governments in those cities, and also plan to have those done by the end of the school year. Following the completion of our Safe Routes to School work, we are going to pick back up the county portion and the county and other cities portion of the countywide bikeway plan. When we began that work in 2018, we plan to update make one plan. Through that development process, we completed the Lawrence Bikes Plan in 2019, and then we've left the other portion of that work to still be completed. We are also working on finalizing our Appendix F, which is our performance report from Transportation 2040 with our new performance measures, and we hope to have that to you very soon. And then we have finalized all the reporting and data processing from our bike ped counts in September of 2019, and those are posted online and have been made available for all the bicycle and pedestrian counting that we have done. That's part of our almost now decade-long counting program for bicycles and pedestrians. So, also attached are recent TAC minutes that were approved from November 12th for your information. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about any of the work I've talked about or anything else that we have in our work plan.
All right. So I just covered items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
Okay. Anything from anyone on any of those? All right.
Can you say that again? The safe routes goes first to the school districts, then to MPO, then to city, or where does it go first? Who sees it first? Was that not set in stone?
It's not set in stone.
Okay.
The only thing required is the Technical Advisory Committee will see it before the MPO Policy Board, and Multimodal Transportation Commission will see it before City Commission and probably School Board. We're working on the process with the school district, or whether we go to one of their subcommittees, or how we're going to do do some updates to that. So the timing of that will probably vary and be determined kind of based on those early conversations we have as we start to work through that process. Much of the work that needs to happen around safe routes to school in the conversation of whether it's city or school board is that some of the recommendations we're forming are around what has remained from our work that started in 2014, which is a school area traffic control policy, which had been previously jointly discussed by the city and school board, city commission and school board. And it is stuck in legal, and there had been no determination or further movement on it. So we've identified as part of our planning process some additional things that we believe even the draft needs to have in terms of negotiating next steps and implementations around safe routes to school. And so we need to have all of those conversations. That being said, I think the idea to buy into plan adoption doesn't will be like the first step, and then we'll need to do additional work to work through the implementation of some of those things. So as far as timing, I think it's a conversation. And we just try to navigate that to make it successful. Oftentimes though, TAC and MPO are early in that process, and then it goes to the other parties after that.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll move into other business, which looks vacant. So is that updates from around the table?
Yeah, if anybody has anything.
Do we have any control over the stoplights downtown?
Does the city of Lawrence? Yes.
It took me longer to maneuver downtown than it did to get downtown from West Campus.
Yeah.
My apologies for being late. I had a boss cracking the whip on me.
It's quite all right. Anything else? Guess I can do the same KDOT updates I gave at the last meeting. So right now is the time where the governor and the secretary are proposing the state's next transportation bill to the state legislators. So if you're interested in transportation, which it appears you are if you're at this meeting, now's the time to voice your concern or comments to anyone about that or the language that's within the proposed bills. Those bills, if you want to learn more about what's being proposed, are Senate Bill 375 or House Bill 2588. And if you have any other questions about that, you can reach out to me. Contact information is with our invites and everything, and I'll put you in touch with whoever would be responsible for what your issue is related to. The cost share program is in round 2. Deadline for applications is April 15th. There's about 20 to 25 million to be awarded, and these projects are your less common, not quite our routine transportation projects that we see applying for our programs at KDOT. This is kind of like our safety net to help fund those outliers that for some reason didn't fit the federal or state standards. It was really successful last round, and I highly encourage taking advantage of it, especially if you have projects with plans that are just sitting on the shelf ready to go. All you needed was assistance with the construction funding. That's what this is.
I
for.
believe in Douglas County, the city of Lawrence was the only submitter that submitted unsuccessfully in round one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so about that, it also wasn't then pushed to the other programs, I believe, which it would also be very suitable in. So is that staying in, do you know?
I have no
Round
idea,
two? Okay. Because, yes,
but
I obviously was very supportive of that one. Another funding program, Transportation Alternatives, our announcements of those projects will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. It took a while to dwindle down from 32 applications requesting for 22.5 million down to 18 to the amount of money we actually had, which was 8.5 million. And there's some, I believe Lawrence and Baldwin City and I don't think Eudora this year applied, so you'll be getting announcements on those very soon. Then a whole bunch of public transit items are going on, which was more relevant to the last meeting, so if you have any questions about any of those, just feel free to let me know. Anyone else? If not, next meeting is March 19th, 2020. Do we do the official motion to adjourn?
No.
Not that formal. All right, that's it.
Thank you for leading the meeting and
Of course.
welcome new members. And again, sorry I was late, but thanks for carrying on for me.
One more stoplight, you would miss the whole thing.
Probably. I had to keep remembering that are these off yet? That I was off on the phone and had to be careful that I wasn't.